Welcome to the CDO Magazine interview series. Today we have with us Dhaval Madka, Vice President of Rocket Data for Quicken Loans. Very nice to meet you, Dhaval.
Thanks for having me, Patrick.
Excellent. You have a very impressive background. You have a nice mixture of consulting and corporate work. You've worked with companies such as Citibank, David J. Joseph, Cognizant, and now Quicken Loans as the Vice President of Rocket Data. So very, very big position. I also want to mention, doing my research, you were recognized as a woman of influence in the 2020 Venue magazine. Congratulations, that's quite an honor.
Thank you.
How have your experiences and successes positioned you for success in your new role with Quicken Loans?
Well, I'll tell you my little story is that of the first generation immigrant story. And a lot of things that my kids even don't understand or realize is you have a few choices in life. You can, before we started, we were talking about the pronunciation for my name. Like, I know everybody will have a different angle or answer to it, but being open-minded and open to learning is one thing that the immigrants bring to table, I feel. And I was very fortunate to have lived in 12 different cities, 3 different continents, and 3 countries so far since the times I left home 20 years ago. So I feel a lot of my experiences are shaped by the challenges you face and the opportunities that you can turn the challenges into. Data and analytics is no different from that. I decided to do my MBA 10 years after being into technology because I was finding and always hearing this idea that a technologist needs to learn the business and needs to be business-focused technology leader. And that meant something, and that meant different things to different people. So when I moved to the United States, the first thing I decided to do was leave the workforce and went on and got my business degree. And I'm very, very thankful for all the different learnings about the business that I got from there. I always tell people, like, education should never be. I know most of us believe in that education is a never-ending game. So I think right after my MBA, I got opportunities to work in data and analytics in different businesses, and that it just seems like the B school continued from there because there is always a new aspect of business that you are learning. And I have always looked at the technology part of it as an enabler, like the technology, people, and processes that we say are enablers to the learning about the business. And the impact of data is only as much as it can be actionable for the business.
Very good. So as a VP of data and analytics, as you mentioned, it's a transformational position. It's enabling technology to make better business decisions. People use the word transformational. It means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. What does it mean to you and also Quicken Loans?
I think data and analytics is still in its infancy, right? Like, technology has been around for several decades now, but data really picked up in the mid-2000s for some people, and really in the last 10 years for a lot of companies. And today you see several organizations of all different sizes, large, mid, and small organizations in all the different walks of businesses talk about how they want to use data. So I think a large part of data transformation or transformation of the business through data is having the technology, having the people and the processes that can use that. But more than that, it is about the cultural shift. You will always find executives who are not from technology, but they are very supportive these days of this idea that you need to do something about data. You need to find that actionable insight. They say it in different ways, but I think really what they say is a change management, and they are all trying to impact that. So I think our responsibility as leading the charge for those executives from the data and analytics standpoint is I do see my positions always as transformational. So a big part of my job is always understanding the cultural aspects of what is the maturity of this organization, what is the change management that we will have to do alongside. And right now we are actually working on some large scale projects where we hired a change management team to help us with that communication, to figure out where our stoppers could be, or to figure out where our larger opportunities could be, where you see some early adopters, and they reside in your business, they reside in your own world in technology. And I think it's important to distinguish and understand that transformation is all about change and change management.
So to touch further on that, so you mentioned there's those that are already ready for the change, and then there's obviously some that are resistant or not as engaged. How do you evangelize to get those people on board to help with the change to a data-driven organization?
I think we talk about change management in several aspects. We just touched upon that. I think it's important to, again, realize and find out, from a business standpoint, which are the parts of your business that really need the data. In some companies, there are finance organizations that need the data more than let's say your operations. In some other companies, you want to be able to turn around your revenue stream. In some companies, you want to reduce your cost. So I think it's really important to understand the drivers and then ensure that those drivers are in tandem and in agreement with the fact that they have to be early adopters of the business. So that is one side. That's the nature of the business, right? And then there is the other side is the people who are in the business. There may be some people who are very techno-functional. These days you find, like when I worked at Nucor Corporation, or DJJ, we had our finance people really embedded in our data and analytics strategy. They understood how to use the large scale data products that we created. They were very focused, and they would be part of our agile teams, really helping us with requirements on a daily basis. So it becomes really easy by identifying the business areas that need the data and the ones that are able to adopt it. Now, sometimes there could be gaps with that. And that's where I think you need either an executive support from the business, which I think it's really important and imperative that there's partnership between a CDO and a chief marketing officer, or your chief operating officer, or your CEO for that matter. I think it's really important to figure out the specifics of where you need help and who should you need help from. So that's the business side of things. On the technology side, there is a lot more going on. And I think that's the easier part. Maybe just me that discounts it, being here for 20 years. I do feel that technology has a lot of upkeep, and it just has scaled us so far that when you actually look at Gartner, like I follow Gartner's quadrant about the BI technologies, and they are very well-rounded research about the tools and the technologies that are available for traditional BI, for machine learning, for embedded machine learning, and so on and so forth. So from a technology standpoint, it is important to keep up with what works for your organization. How is your larger part of the technology situated? Are they on a certain type of cloud? Are they hybrid cloud? And then you should refer to the Gartner quadrant or whatever means you have and stay in tandem. Like, I'm a big believer of keeping things in sync so that you can propel faster. And data and analytics is no different than that.
Very good. So as the executive in charge of data analytics, it's a very strategic role. You establish long-term strategy and vision, but you also have to get the day-to-day tactical things done. How do you balance those two ends of the spectrum, if you will?
Hey, Patrick, this is my favorite question, actually, in general. I get asked often as a leader. I'm known for being detail-oriented when I need to. And I have learned to become high level when I need to. And I think that balance is very important, irrespective of whether you are in data or whether you are in general other leadership, right? Like I think for a leader, it's very important to understand and figure out where your help is needed, that you get into the details. And then you have to be constantly looking at and understanding yourself and your role into once you get into the details of when you have to come out of it. So an analogy that I use is I'm a sports enthusiast. So I talk about the HIT style mode of thinking. HIT is a high intensity interval training. So what you do in HIT is you do like 40 seconds or 30-second intervals of high intensity exercise where you increase your heart rate to 80% of your max heart rate. And then you have another smaller interval, like 10 seconds, to decrease it back. And then you go back and continue that cycle again. Every minute you are changing your heart rate. What this does to you is it improves and it burns calories all day long. The way I put this is the thinking of a leader is like HIT style. You have to get into that detail level when you have to. It's like your increased heart rate. And then you have to get back on the high level 50,000 feet again when you have to need to. And you should be able to do that while sitting in the same meeting, walking from meetings to meeting. You might have a one-on-one and then you have a meeting with some C-level people, or you might be with some analyst. These are all different contexts, and you have to be able to shift your being detail-oriented or being high-level based on the context that you are in.
That's a fantastic analogy. I really like that. I might have to borrow that. Thank you. It's generally acknowledged that the pace of change in data and analytics is very rapid. You mentioned it earlier. Things are evolving. We're still in our infancy. A lot of times it requires folks like you to work with external partners, whether that be technology or service providers. How do you identify and develop mutually beneficial relationships with external partners?
Sure. I think, again, like I mentioned, there are so many technologies today available outside on the market that you should seek that help, especially when many companies have a cloud strategy. It's easy to get help on the services that are on the cloud. For example, we are an AWS shop, and there are so many Amazon services that you can avail of, but then there are also third-party vendors that you can avail of. So my thinking always has been about getting the technology and the consulting help that you need, but at the same time ensuring that they have the business information from your side. You can't expect a technology partner, outside vendor, to come in and have the same level of maturity about business as you do. So I think in order to keep pace with the business, it's important that we, like people like me and several others in my organization, are constantly cognizant of the fact that you have to get your business aligned with your outside vendors. So I am, again, a big believer of decision making through consensus and keeping people updated for what they should. And one of the things that we like to always do is pick up one or two business people or business partners that would be willing to have maybe a proof of concept done or an MVP created for their business area for whatever we are experimenting with.
You mentioned Gartner, looking at the Magic Quadrant. Obviously, things are changing, as I mentioned, and you've mentioned. So you use Gartner to stay current. Any other outside sources that you use to keep up with what are innovations that might be applicable for Quicken Loans that could be a game changer for you, or any thoughts around that?
Oh, sure. I mean, it's not just Gartner. So again, there is a lot of community help. There are at Quicken Loans, we always get outside speakers. We do this half-day sessions where there will be industry speakers coming and talking to our people, to all of our, even like business areas are invited sometimes. So that help is available. We also have, I personally also am part of the MIT's forum, the Fusion Alliance forum in Cincinnati, which is a great place. And the last time around when we talked, I was very pleased to find that a lot of my peers are trying to implement the data mesh concept, which is very innovative. And we'll talk about that in a second. But I was able to simply like attest to where we are going. So that concept wasn't new to us, but the fact that my peers were talking about it was a very good underscoring of the fact that we are going on the right path. And I think I would personally always look to peer help outside as well. Um, Plus, we have a lot of very enthusiastic and very entrepreneurial people. Quicken is a very, very well, we are called Rocket now, but we are very people centric, experimental, progressive company. We are always encouraging our architects, our data enthusiasts, our solution analyst, and our analyst in the business to go out and look for what is out there in the market. And then when they come back, and if we want to run a proof of concept or something, we are very open to ideas. So I think that helps a lot as well.
Very good. So return on investment is important. And when you're trying new things, innovations, things like that, a lot of times it's hard to quantify the return on investment initially. It's a challenge in the data analytics area. Any thoughts around that of how you attribute success for something that might have initially soft ROI?
Oh, sure. I mean, I think that monetization of the information has been around for a while. How many people can actually do it is a good question. So I like how you put it, soft ROI. We still are around soft ROI, I guess, all of us. One of the things that is helping us right now is thinking about analytics and machine learning not as its own like standalone non-transactional or after the fact of a transaction thing. That is for sure important. It's important for us to look at dashboards and machine learning models that are predicting outside of your transaction. But I think what's becoming more and more important and easily measurable is inside of the transaction, at the embedded machine learning and embedded analytics at your transaction level. That then makes it easier to manage the cost of doing that analytics as well as the benefit of that. Now, how we are to get there, I think there are several theories around that. There are some matrices that can be obtained to do that, like cost of revenue or cost of ownership measurement, and then calculate the return on investment. But there is also a big part of me that wonders like how far you should go with that versus put your best energies into thinking at the macro level of your business, right? So one of the examples is a lot of businesses are trying to do chatbots and things that existed at a transaction level, but how effective are your chatbots? So like trying to find a measure that works for you for those kind of things is more important, and not getting like too far down in the weeds, but staying on course of like, have we like looked at how our chatbots were before we implemented AI in the chatbots, or how when we do incremental AI, what is that? What is the efficacy and how many calls we are dropping, for example, or how many times that chatbot is taking us to a call? So I think doing that kind of analysis and thinking, and again, goes back to understanding your business of what metric can help you figure out your driver or the success of that particular analytics is dependent on your business.
So taking a more holistic view of, I like that. That's great. Switching gears just a little bit. Obviously, people are very important. You mentioned people, process, technology. People is a huge part of that. What is your secret, or how do you go about recruiting and probably even more important, retaining top talent that can help you achieve your initiatives?
Oh, sure. Patrick, I have written about this. I believe, again, I think everybody in general has become very analytical in the world because there are so many apps around us that make you naturally think about numbers. But especially if you are in the data and analytics world, it's important to have that analyst mindset. So I am always looking for the analyst mindset, irrespective of what you are going to be, whether you're going to be a leader or you're going to be an engineer or you're going to be a solution analyst, whatever you are. I'm always looking for that analyst mindset. So I read I read an article a few weeks ago that talked about what is an analyst mindset, and this writer explains very nicely of, let's say you walk in a party. Not that we can do that these days, but hopefully we will someday. Let's say you walk in a party and the party is full of men and women, and there is a host, and some people are holding the glass of wine, or some people are having a beer, some people are just walking and talking. The first thing you start as you observe the people is, how many men are there, how many women are there. So you're trying to quantify without actually being very cognizant of that. Your subconscious mind is quantifying the information that's in the room. And then naturally you go to the next level. How many people are holding wine? How many people are having beer? How many people are having dinner? How many people have kids? So it's really goes back to the metrics of thinking and the facts or the dimensions around that metric, right? Like, what are the properties of those metrics? So that is, I feel like whenever I talk to people, I try to find that analyst mindset. This was just an example, but like, try to really understand how they think by asking them some tricky questions, etc. I think it's important. At other level, I think there are a few things that I have described in the past about analyst mindset. There's a LinkedIn article that talks about presentation without preparation, which is important for an analyst. So if you are in the data world, you might be giving elevator pitches to people just because you are in a meeting and somebody asked you a question about data, right? You should be able to present and talk to them. That is also an analyst mindset. And recruiting the right people with that personality is so very important. And then of course trying to get people who keep up with the current trends, who question the status quo, and they want to constantly experiment, is very important. And last but not the least, I am always looking for people who can explain to me the emotion in data, who can explain to me how they relate their life to data in general, and that is different for different people. For example, I am a runner, and I run because of numbers. I tell people, like, the adrenaline in me is probably not because of running, but it's probably because of the numbers that I can achieve. And that's just one example. But I'm sure like people have imbibed data in their life. And when I'm recruiting for people, I'm not just looking for the technology skills, but I'm looking for that overall analyst and data mindset.
And passion too, it sounds like. Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, your analogies are fantastic. I like how you describe going into a party, because I do that myself. That's kind of funny. I never really thought about it until you mentioned that. But yeah, I always size up the room and try to break it down. I don't know why, but I guess I might have that mindset. So thank you. Well, I have one last question before we wrap up today, and it deals with this pandemic that we're in right now. I was wondering if the COVID pandemic has impacted your organization, maybe impacted some priorities or created new opportunities.
Yeah, I would say I think it started with challenges. But at this time around, I mean, humans are resilient by nature, by birth. So I think we all, I think as human race, we have done great in the pandemic, for at least for the people who still have jobs. I am really, again, still very sorry for the ones who are struggling more than others. And talking at my organization level, we are thriving. We are doing really good as it pertains to business. Our executives and our leaders are very, very open to being flexible with people who need the support outside of the organization as well. We have done a lot of community work, specifically in Detroit, where we are headquartered, but even across the nation. Talking specifically of our own employees and our team members, we have a lot of good people analytics pertaining to data now that you can get from all of the apps that we use. So I know the analytics blew up in the middle, and we have been worried about them, about the screen time that people are spending on the phone. Now, again, there is truth to that because we were at home, etc. But talking from a leadership standpoint, I feel like we have turned this around. And as an organization, we have become very mature. We do a lot of our meetings on videos. There are other meetings that we don't need to be on video. There is something to be said about the video balance as well, because the Zoom fatigue and video fatigue can come in, and our leaders and our people have been very mindful of this. And then other than that, like, people are very flexible about the dogs showing up and the kids showing up, and it's more or less like I have started expecting that happens naturally. So the meetings are very vivid and very interesting. Again, we have had our offsites, we have had our happy hours, all of that. But other than that, like, I think in general, we all have turned this around, and I'm super proud of all our team members at Rocket family of companies who have thrived and will continue helping the community and thriving for themselves.
That sounds great. What a great culture that you have. That's the dogs barking and the kids. I mean, I know from my experience, everybody was very conscious of that at the beginning, but now it's like, we're getting the results, but we make do with what we have. To your point, people are wired to thrive, and I like your outlook and perspective. I think that's very, very good. So, well, that was my last question. Thank you so much for your time. I want to thank all of the viewers. Thank you for coming to CDO Magazine. I hope you all have a wonderful day. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. And thanks to the team at CDO Magazine for having me.